You're hanging with us for episode 89 of the Rocky Talky Podcast. I feel like it's been a while since I've done the last one. Happy to be back. My guest tonight is a guy, a cat, a cool cat, a regular of mine at the coffee shop I managed in Toronto on Queen Street West. He came in, always kind. And he convinced me to take on one of his recently developed apps called Shift Hub. And we had a fast friendship through that time over coffee and his time at the shop. And 12 years later, we have been reunited because what he is doing is always cool. And I'm watching him reinvent himself constantly. And I'm always kind of amazed at every corner he seems to keep turning. And I'm usually the guy that's 10 to 12 years older than everyone I run with. And I think he might have about 10 years on me. And he's still doing really cool things. And I wanted to find out why and how and what's next with him. Jeremy Potvin is my guest. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Rocky, man, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. Genuinely my pleasure. I don't know if that intro made sense. I'm trying to figure it out as I go. But why are you here? You're here because I'm inspired by you. That's the bottom line. A lot of what informs my decisions on who I get on this show is just people, regardless of their draw on socials. If you're compelling, I want to know why. I always thought you were a cool guy. I always thought you were incredibly easy to talk to. I watched you insert yourself in the most natural way in social settings. And the big one is over these last 12 years, I've watched you change. You're a changeling.
Yeah.
You do a lot of different things and you seem to do them very well. And what really piqued my interest is right now where you've landed is squarely in the food space. And you're making beautiful looking stuff. So I want to hear your story about where the first of the 9 lives of your story took place, man. Like what is your story? How did you get here? Let's talk about like the beginning. In the beginning, there was what?
Yeah. So I'm still figuring that out. And I think that's actually kind of the cool thing is that, when you say, I'm watching the 9 lives, I'm watching you reinvent yourself. That's all true. But what I'm realizing is that's actually the story. Is that's just who I am. It's this, good. I get more focus as I go along. And I used to think a lot of these things were my flaws. Like, like you prep for that interview question, not that anyone's ever interviewing you. Always the most unemployable human being on the planet. But, what are your flaws? And I would have said this, but I realize now this is the superpower, is that's my ability to take a hit and just get back up and keep going. And if something collapses, it's like, okay, well, feel bad about that for a fucking day and keep going.
Wow.
And pick yourself up.
Great answer.
And I've had I was very, very fortunate to have John Ruffalo on my most recent board. He's been a friend for a long time, since about 2010 when I first got into tech. And he paid me this compliment, and I'll be driving along and I'll hear it in my ears and I'll make sure I hear it. Every time I'm, feeling shitty about myself or like questioning something I've done, he's like, you're the most resilient founder I've ever met in my life. He's like, it's unbelievable how much you can take a hit. And he goes, sometimes that's your fault, or your flaw is that you don't know when to quit. And my most recent startup, he came to me like November 23 and said, with my other board member, Steve Ottaway, and they sat me down and they said, we're concerned about you. Are you okay? Like we were in the tail end of cannabis, and we can get to that story, but we think the company's come to its end of its life cycle. You've done everything you could possibly do, that we could possibly expect from you to get the return. It didn't work out. Like, we came really close. You did everything. Like, we're good, but we want you to take 3 months to really examine this and figure out, we think it's time you should shut this startup down. And that became true for another reason that came along that none of us saw. But it's, you go through these moments of your worry, like, okay, what's next? And you can feel bad about yourself when something collapses or you have to kill it. But I consider it a privilege to have this, where I have this ability to say, okay, and I have good people around me. Like, my partner in life, my family. I'll bounce these ideas off of, and they'll encourage me. Here's the next thing I'm thinking of. What do you guys all think of this? But I'm lucky that I was born with this ability to say, okay, let's go. Let's just do it. I don't care. I'm just going to throw myself out there. And this time I'm going to make food, and we can come back to it. But this time is really different because this is the most authentic version of me yet.
I love that. And that's likely why, when you're standing in the spotlight of your area of grace, you just kind of take flight pretty quickly. And that was my story with food as well. I used to be a hairstylist, and I didn't know if I'd ever find the thing. And at 24, I found food, and it was immediate. So I'm with you on that. Everything you just said, I love that. And I think it is a superpower. And I love that was his word for you. That keeps resonating in your ears. Like, what a good jingle to always be having rattling in your ears.
Yeah. And it took 54 years to get the jingle in my ears. Again, I thought this was a flaw for a long time, was that, I'll throw everything at something. And look, I'll segue this into answering the actual question you asked me, which was, how did this all happen? So, I started an entrepreneurial career really early, and I came from a wealthy family.
Did you?
Yep.
Okay.
And I was fortunate that my parents split when I was 5, 1975. I was born in 1970. And my dad immediately moved to Toronto, and we were talking earlier. So I grew up in Cambridge and Toronto. Lived with my mom full time, went to school in Cambridge, but every weekend I'd be coming into Toronto to hang with my dad, or every other weekend. And so I got to grow up in Toronto as well. I had 3 parents. My mom remarried. Yeah. I had 3 parents that were entrepreneurs. So this was in my head. Like, I'm the oldest of 3 kids. This is built into my DNA.
Same.
Before I knew what this was. And they encouraged me to go to school and get, a proper education. But there was no, we want you to go get a job. It was a lot of, well, obviously you're just going to start a company. That was so, I know a lot of people, a lot of Gen Xers grew up and they didn't have, this is a privilege. I just grew up in this world where I had, 2 parents who did really well, vacations, second homes, and all this type of crap. And so I just grew up in that environment, and it made sense. So I had my first company when I was, I think, 16.
Wow. What was it?
A windsurfing school.
You told me that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were 16.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Or 17, something like that. And I had a window cleaning business in first year university. I made so much money. I bought a house.
What?
And I had a house for second year, and I moved all my friends, and that was a freaking wild mistake because we were just all mental in this house. It was just unsupervised mayhem.
Do you think that because you lived in a fish tank, a fish bowl of entrepreneurship and success, that was the air you breathed? That was what your precepts of reality was. Do you think that that allowed you to just go, that's how it is?
Yeah, I think so.
And so you had this, you didn't know any better to know other than knowing.
I thought it was insane to have a job. When I was in second year university, so I bought a house. I'm in second year.
You bought a house in second year university.
So the summer between first and second, I had a window cleaning business, did really well, and we bought a house.
Outstanding.
We had another lease. We all broke that lease, and my buddies all, it was a 5-bedroom house in London, and they all rented rooms from me, and we had this house. And I kept it but through second year, I totally dropped the ball because I'm like, man, I'm making so much money. Why do I got to go here? And Western's a weird school because you get into Western, and then after second year, you got to reapply to get into business school. And by then my marks had fallen off. I was a maniac. I'm coaching skiing on the weekends. I've still got a business. I had a water purifier MLM business that I was running. It was making a ton of money off of. My downspout was giving me checks every month. And, I've got a car, I've got a house, I'm coaching skiing on the weekends. It was like hot tub time machine every bloody weekend. And I'm like, why do I got to go to school?
Sure.
Completely, the wheels fell off that bus. And I dropped out, moved in with my dad finally, who's still living in Toronto. And that's when things I got my first taste of, hey, it doesn't always go the way you want it to. I ended up working at a store called Over the Rainbow, which launched me into my next career, where I ended up in the apparel industry.
And you were in apparel for how many years?
18 years.
Is that the longest you've ever stayed put in a
single vertical? Yeah. Okay. Now, in that vertical, I worked for an agent that essentially became a partner. This guy, Steve Slavin, one of the best business mentors yet, like I've ever had in my life. And I didn't even know he was my mentor. I just was around someone who knew how to run a business and was a great salesperson. It was just such a perfect human being. Like, I just love this man to this day. And
before you keep going, I'm going to, some talks, I just don't feel like it needs to be linear and go from the beginning. Let's just shoot wild. Let's not be chronological.
You don't have to do chronological.
Yeah, you're a visionary, you're a doer, and you're a changeling, and that's great. Let's just keep doing that. But I want to ask a question. And I think you're about to answer that question before I cut you off. Does this answer that you were beginning to explain, is this going to give us the reason why you stayed so long in one spot?
For apparel for 18 years? So yes, because I got to change with the industry.
Okay.
So I started off working for an agent, worked there 5 years. That bug was still in me to own my own company. Now, when you're working for an agent, you're on commission. So you don't sell, you don't eat. So that's a very entrepreneurial life to live.
Sure.
Like, although a real estate agent isn't technically an entrepreneur, that's an entrepreneurial way to live. Because if you don't sell a house, you're not going to
eat what you kill.
So that's me. I'm selling Parasuco jeans. Okay. I've launched that brand, and I'm, a young guy in his early 20s, and it was fun.
Did you launch Parasuco in this area?
Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. Parasuco. No one really knows the story. So Parasuco was Santana jeans in Canada. And then they had shipped Santana into New York, and they got a cease and desist because there was already a Santana. So they had to send all the jeans back. Sal Parasuco, he's like, fuck it. Let's just put my name on them. Relabeled all the jeans, sent them back, and it blew up. At the time, Slavin had Santana jeans for Ontario, and now it's suddenly also going to be Parasuco. It became a bigger job. They needed to hire someone. They found me. I was running Levi's stores at the Bay. And I got hired, came on board, and I worked for him for about 4.5, 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's when I went and launched my own agency. And I had my first brand was this brand that no one had heard of. It was bloody weird. It was like this little monkey wallets and monkey t-shirts. And I'm looking at it, and I'm opening my office, and I've got Tiger Brand knitting. I've got, Earl jeans.
Nice.
And this line. And I'm like, what is this monkey stuff? And it was Paul Frank. And I took it on, like, it was kind of like Slavin was offered to Slavin. He didn't want it. They gave it to me. And my buddy, this guy, Glenn Knott, who ended up being my business partner for the better part of a decade. He goes, look, just take the samples and the line sheets, just hit the road and just go see what, let's just try to sell this stuff. So I hit the road. I drove around to all the customers that had shown interest. Like, I just had this like sort of kill list from a trade show. Like, these people in Canada were really interested in the brand. I ran around and sold it for a week. On that Friday afternoon, I give Glenn a call, and I go, you sitting down? He's like, yeah. And I go, I just sold 180 grand of these fucking monkey wallets and monkey t-shirts in a week. He's like, what?
You get a cut of that?
I get 10% of it. So I'm like, yeah, I made 18 grand in a week. I'm 26, whatever I was, something like that, 28. And I'm like, we got something. That thing blew up. I paid for my second house. So my second house.
What year was this?
I think I launched my agency in 98. I was one of the OG first 10 Paul Frank employees, essentially employee. Glenn and I had this business where he was a distributor, like he was a hands-on logistics guy, and I was the sales and marketing. And we was like two separate companies, but operated as one. And so we just did this with a ton of different brands. Nothing touched Paul Frank. Like, Paul Frank was just the most fun you could possibly imagine. It was such a cool brand to sell, such a cool team to be a part of. The first time I was ever really a part of something big like that. Like, that was just like, everyone was making so much money. Everyone's young. We're all in California, like 5-6 times a year for a week at a time, just
How long
partying and having fun. It was so much fun.
How long did the Paul Frank wave?
It was a good wave. That was like 5 years. And then the last 5 years were weird. Like Paul quit. Massimo bought his third of the company. And Massimo started turning it into one of those Target type brands. There was a licensee in Canada. It was just, ended up being kind of, the last part of it just sucked. Like, yeah.
I could just saw my baker try to come in and did walk in because she sees me doing an interview, and I'm just going to text her really quick.
No
this is live broadcasting here.
Yeah.
Becky. Apologies, folks. This is what happens when you conduct interviews in your restaurant when the sun is still up. Come in, send. Okay. Just quickly, what is it that you do?
So yeah, I think I kind of alluded to that earlier on. It's like I kind of think I'm recently really figured this out. And sales, if you had to pin down to one word, it's sales. So
Yep.
No matter what, you look at my entire career, no matter what I've done, sales is a big part of it, which then you start digging deeper. That's marketing.
Mm-hmm.
If you, let's, skip over the chronological part of it, where we end up now is really tech driven utilization of technological tools and platforms to find customers. But what I really am is a storyteller. That's it. Whether I'm standing in front of an investment banker, a venture capital fund, a family office, or a hedge fund, and I'm pitching and telling a story, or I am walking into Dark Horse on Queen Street where Warby Parker now is, and I'm pitching you to try my new, mobile-based application for, scheduling your staff called Shift Hub.
It's just, so let me.
I'm a storyteller.
Let's put a pin in that because
Yeah.
I can verify that this is true. You pitched me so casually and organically. I brought it to the ownership. You pitched it to the ownership, and it became a store-wide application.
Yeah.
But I think pitch actually diminishes what it really was. You somehow managed to just communicate it in a way that was so compelling, and
that's the story.
It just made sense. Now, I also don't want to sound like I'm kissing your ass. But this is what I realized talking to you. Some people can carry a tune. Some people can swing at a ball and knock it out of the park. Some people can just find ways to make money.
Yeah.
And that also is a diminishment of the real thing. The real thing is that you're a communicator.
Yes.
And that's awesome. And good for you. Like, to make the living you've made off the ability of your mouth to speak.
Literally, that's it.
That's incredible.
My fucking mouth.
You've built a world out of your ability to speak.
Yeah. And again, it took a long time to figure out that it was a superpower. Like, it really, is
that a bad thing? Because it torments me that it's taken me so long to learn things.
I always just think that was a bad thing too. And now I'm like, nah, man, I got lots of gas in the tank. Like, I'm 54 now.
How do you feel at 54?
Oh my God, I love it. Like, people look like, you'll get someone on Instagram or whatever to comment section, oh, you're a fucking old man. I go, yeah, man. I look in the mirror and I go, wait, you're supposed to be 30. Why are you 54?
Right.
You always feel like as soon as a guy hits 30, they're going to feel like 30 for, in my opinion, probably for fucking ever.
Yeah. So
other than the actual, unavoidable decay of your body, when I look at why I'm talking about this perspective right now, in February of 24, so less than a year ago, I flamed out. My last startup flamed out. Like, I put everything into this. I was part of the original Tokyo Smoke team. I did really well in that exit. And I financed this company through the pandemic myself. I went out and kept raising money, and then we got stiffed. And that's a story that I'll leave for another century. And in February, which was 3 months after my board of directors had sat down with me and said, we're worried about you. Well, that decision got made for me because we hit a wall in February and there was no recovering from it. And I shut the company down. Now, we've also touched on the point that I can take a hit, I get up, I smile, I dust myself off, and the next day I'm off pitching something else. That was the first time I looked in the mirror. I was 53 at the time, and I'm like, oh man, that one. I felt that one.
You felt that one?
That one stung a little bit because I'm broke at 53. I've done this before. I know I can do it again. But this time I'm actually feeling it. I'm not numb to it. I don't just smile my way out of it. This one hurt.
That's good.
A lot. And I'm like, I think I needed to feel it this one. And
good.
I'm like, here's what I go. I just started making lists, and I'm like, I'm not sure I ever want to stand up in front of a venture capital firm again, or run around pitching investors. I think I want to go back to when I was happiest, which was when I was in the apparel industry, where it's essentially a business of one that grew into something that was a business, but it started off as a business of one. Hey, Jeremy, here's a bag of monkey t-shirts. Get the hell out there and go sell them. And I'm like, I need to recreate that because number one, I don't give a shit about the money right now. I just want to be number one, happy. I walk out the door tomorrow. I want to be happy. I got to figure that out. And I was having a conversation with this guy, Josh Valencia, who I had hired to join our board of advisors at Weedbox, which was the previous company, because we were building this affiliate marketplace for cannabis in the US, and I needed help understanding the tech and behind it. And he taught me so much. And so I phoned him around that time. And I phoned him actually before the death date because I knew that was coming. And I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of my future and what's going to happen. I'm not sure the company's going to survive. He didn't even let me finish a sentence. I was like going to say, what do you think? He's just like, Jeremy, shut up. Why you are not doing something in the food space? It just boggles my mind every day. I follow you on Instagram. I see all your food. He goes, you need to get off this call with me and build something around you, specifically you in the food business.
What a godsend.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And he just gave me he goes, do this list. I should have brought the other one of these books because the one before this was
I would love to see that list. Because
I'll take a pictures of them.
That's a matter of fact of history.
Yeah. And he goes, do the following. You need to start an email list. You're going to do email marketing. You're going to post. Back then I was posting like once a month. He's like, you're posting 4 times a week. Here's what you're going to do. He just gave me the playbook. And I got off the call and it was a Zoom. My girlfriend was in the other room on the couch. And I go, I know you're going to understand me when I tell you this. I can't get off this chair after the call until I've done everything on this list. I got to start it all literally right now. And I signed up a ConvertKit, and I just started inhaling everything. I just basically started everything. I spent the next 3 weeks planning it out. And luckily my girlfriend is VP of marketing of a big fintech company. So she really helped me with funnels and, just sort of fine tuning my ideas. She's really, really great at bouncing ideas off of and like really fine tuning a lot of the noise that I'll bring to the table instinctively. And that's it. That's how it started. I was that one, I was feeling pain. Of 53, I knew I had enough gas in the tank to do it, but I was scared because I didn't have sometimes when you're ending something, it's like, I know what the next thing's going to be because I'm just entrenched in the startup ecosystem where people have been banging on the door trying to get me to be part of something. This time I'd been pushing everyone away from me so much, and it was, post-pandemic still essentially, and everyone was siloed up. But that's the first time that it really I felt it. But a couple months later, I'm like, no, I know this is going to be good. I just got to stick to the plan. And that's the key too, is you pick a plan.
Yeah.
Here's the path forward, and like a metronome. You just keep doing it every day, even if the metrics aren't there. Like, you don't look behind you. Don't look at the KPIs for a year, really. Just pick your plan, be really smart about the plan. Pick your path forward, and you do that every day. And the key to it is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, at the end of the year, I'm gonna figure out, did I make the right decision? So this is it. We're at the end of the year. Like that, a month from now is when I had that conversation with Josh.
Wow.
And I came to, when I first got here, with good news about our YouTube channel. Substack's going great. We're now on Spotify. I'm sure there's a couple more things I'm going to be launching as well, but we're here. It worked. And so at 54, like, I really do hope that this career, this bounce back, is as long or longer than my apparel career.
Okay, dude, I this is so timely. Like selfishly and transparently, I also knew that I needed to receive from you what you had, because I'm at a crossroad in my life that like I could cry right now. Like I woke up really heavy this morning because I'm like, I don't know what's next. I know what I have in my hand. I know what I'm good at. And I have a really strong starts on a lot of things. And perhaps I'm doing too many things, and that's part of the issue. But it's been 23 years since the last time I dug in and built something new. The last time I did this was when I learned how to become a chef. This new frontier feels sizable to me. But I knew that I was going to glean something from you. So massive respect for you. I also think mentorship is really hard to find. I never had a master to learn under in food. I'm self-taught. I was devastated when I couldn't go to school, but I'm proud of the fact that my trajectory was self-taught. But the mentor thing, it's hard to find. And it sounds like you were lucky enough to have mentors coming up.
I did always.
Yeah.
Until, before I knew what they were.
Yeah.
Then I sought them out. My board was always packed with them, from John Ruffalo to Todd Finch to Steve Ottaway. Like these guys have been great for me. And I learned really quickly to give back. So I probably mentored over 250 tech companies myself.
Wow.
I was doing that for Techstars. I don't really do it now, except for one thing. There's an organization called Influence Mentoring, which is funded by Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively.
Really?
And I get one student per year, an Indigenous student. And my job is to mentor the student from post-secondary education into the workforce.
Amazing.
And my one student I've had now, we're coming up on 2 years because it's such a good partnership. I'm helping him build a nonprofit in the Indigenous student housing space. And it is a monster of a project, but mentorship is super important. So for whatever, to whatever degree, this conversation, I'm happy that.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I want to say, here's the assumption so that we can get to the good stuff. Jeremy, you've been a part of multiple projects. Most of them have found success. Let's just establish that's where you've been so that we can get to all the other human stuff. So I just want to put that out there. But one of the things you said that I love when your board sat you down to say, I think we need to like put a pause and have a reset, was at that time, this particular friend, you were always pitching things to people. Someone pitched you to you.
Wow.
And I love that.
Great observation. And funny you mentioned that because I went to that meeting. They called the meeting out in the beaches. I prepped for that meeting for a day. Yeah. I had like live demos set up.
You got upended.
I thought they were like, okay, Potvin, you better just come and bring the heat. We want to see like, what are we doing with our money? And we were building an AI platform called Chat THC with live. It was super cool. And I had this bonkers live demo. And they had called the meeting because they wanted me to shut the company down.
Wow.
They wanted me to shut it down then, like that day. And then I did this live demo and they're like, wait a second. That's actually really good. They go, okay, 3 months. If you can get this thing off the ground in 3 months, we'll go and help you raise another couple $1 million. But then we got hit. We got blindsided. Let's not go into the whole story, but it just didn't work out and we shut the company down. But it was funny because
that's awesome.
I had no idea they cared about me that much. And I left there and I was literally in tears. I drove away crying.
Wow.
I was like, I had no idea that they cared about me like that. And I still get emotional now just even thinking about it. I walked Ruffalo home. And I like bent because unfortunately he's now in a wheelchair, and I bent down to give him a hug. And I'm like, man, I love you. Thank you so much. I had no idea that's what this meeting was about. They blew me away that day that they cared that much.
I'm so happy for you that you have those people in your life. That's
it's
incredible.
So important. It's like, so I'm doing this now, and the key to finding a mentor is being really open and transparent. So I don't know if I actually have a mentor right now in this space, but I've got enough people around me that I trust, like Corey Vitiello, Nick Liu, and other chefs who Like I encourage them to, basically online harass me and troll me. Like if my recipes suck or whatever, like, or it's good. And I get lots of feedback from them, and it's been great. Like I'm fortunate that my brother was in the restaurant business and I was surrounded by chefs, which is why I know how to cook the way I do.
You're in a good orbit.
Yeah, I'm in a great orbit.
Yeah.
And I've got all these guys who are like, man, you're doing, like, they're all encouraging me, whether they know they're mentoring me or not.
Right.
Like, it's not just those two. There's a bunch of chefs that are out there constantly reaching out, going, man, this is really good stuff. I'm like, really?
Awesome.
God, man, I can't believe it. Thanks. Because, I'm not a chef. I'm just a guy that knows how to cook. In fact, I'm a guy, like, I was, those 250 tech startups that I mentored through Techstars and a couple of other organizations, I was talking to a lot of young founders who were really stressed out. Like tech startups is a meat grinder. And like I'm talking to young guys and girls who are like in their early to late 20s. Typically that's the range. And it can be crushing, some of the defeats on a daily basis you get. And I'm like, you guys need a way to relax, and it can't just be booze and drugs. Here's what I'm going to advise you to do. Teach yourself how to cook. This is how you do it, because it's a win.
What a great piece of advice.
You need to have a one win. Even on the worst day, you can go home, you bust out a little recipe, and from start to finish, it's going to be, you've started a project, you execute in the project, and now you've served dinner. Now serve it to your friends. Right? Invite your friends over and serve them dinner.
Get out of yourself.
Because it's going to be a win, and you're going to feel good before you go to bed.
It's tactile and it's sensory too.
Yeah. And I was posting a lot of food content. Like, if you go through my Instagram, you can go way back. You're never going to find a part of my Instagram where I'm like, like one of those, hustle bros going, here's how you do a funnel, or, doing push-ups beside a fancy car, or like, no, the last thing the internet needs is another guy, white guy, telling you about a fucking drip campaign. Like, I look like a chef if you go back years and I've never been a chef, but I look like it because all it was, while I was doing all of that mentoring, that's the thing I noticed what made people happy. So it's all I posted, was just food or hanging out or,
It's funny. I noticed you've been on my radar with food since I think 2011. I did a supper for some friends and I did a pumpkin risotto. And I had just left Toronto. So you and I were a little bit more aware of each other. We were on each other's radar a bit more because we had just come away from like my time in Toronto. And you made a comment like, oh, wow, we need to talk. That was your comment on what you had seen. And I was like, oh, he's a real foodie. He's a food guy. And I noticed from that time on your content, and I have been watching a steady intensity to the fever pitch it is right now of food. So it has been a genuine organic trajectory that I've been seeing on your socials to what it is today.
Thank you. And I think I mentioned this earlier on, where this feels like the most authentic version of myself. So let's answer the other question, like, what are you? And I said sales, and it's marketing, and now I'm a storyteller. Okay, that's all great. And I can do that for almost anything. The cannabis industry, technology, apparel. A lot of that's learned. Those are learned industries. Cannabis. I know everything about the cannabis industry. I know all the players in every state, in every province. I know how to execute things. I could probably advise someone in setting up, a production facility. I couldn't care less about the different strains of cannabis. Like, people will, when we get down to it and I'm talking to cannabis people, and they'll be like, hey, so what do you think about this strain or that strain? I really like this. I'm like, yeah, you're like, this is where it falls into the same category as wine for me. My brother's one of the best sommeliers in this country. I know wine enough to drink it, pick it out of the LCBO. My brother can smell things I don't know exist. That's how trained his nose is. That's how much he cares about that product. And with cannabis, I was in the business for 7 years and I understand the whole business. I couldn't care less about the different strains. So it never really like I'm still doing cannabis marketing with a couple other projects, and I love the people that I work with. and we've got a project we're launching this year, and it's by all means, it'll probably be successful, but I don't care about it the same way that I care about the pasta dish that I posted this morning, because that's authentic. Again, it's still a learned skill, but it's something I really care about. It's something that is so second nature to me now. When I say this is the most authentic version of me, as far as my storytelling goes, this is like, it's not like a new denim brand or a technology that I'm trying to develop, whether it's ChatTHC or Shift Hub or working with a new cannabis company and helping them launch a brand of edibles or whatever. This is very different.
Is it your most at rest? Meaning,
wow, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because it's funny. Like I feel that way when I'm actually interviewing people.
Great,
like
really.
Like so, I'm a musician. Music and food has been my life's work, but I have been subconsciously training in the art of communicating since I was a little boy. Because I grew up in a hair salon. I always joke that my time in Toronto, I got my master's in communicating because I had to reach someone within a minute and make a contact. And I will always be a chef, and I love food and passionate about it, but I'm at rest here.
That's cool. I mean, 80 plus episodes. This is good,
and everyone has that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm thrilled for you that you found that. So, are you more of a storyteller or are you more of a world builder?
Man, I don't know.
And I think
I think the storytelling is the tip of the spear for world building. Like I don't think you can build some. And I'm assuming by world building, like I'm building a new entity in an industry. Yeah. Okay. So I don't think you can do that unless you're a storyteller.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't think you can do it.
100%.
I think it has to be your tip of the spear.
And then you're dealing with what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing. But that really doesn't matter.
You look at any big, huge company that's still owned by the founder, that the founder's still there. That founder is a storyteller.
Yeah, 100%. That's good.
That founder's a storyteller.
Because you have to be a visionary, and you can't tell the vision unless you know how to tell the story.
Yeah. And they're sometimes they're too good because they're fraud. Like what's her name from the blood company that she's in prison.
Oh,
now. She was too good.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I forget her name.
The CEO of Palantir.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
That company's worth twice as much as it should be because he's just too good of a storyteller.
Who's Palantir again?
Oh, it's like a data company that.
Oh, it's military. It's in military.
It's basically the spyware.
Right.
Like he thinks. Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's so good at telling the story. You think this is like spy trade.
Palantir is AI, isn't it? Type of AI.
Yeah, they're a data company.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think if you're a world builder, it's a lot. Here, put it this way: it's a lot easier if you're a great storyteller.
So I was going to say you got to be careful, Mr. Potvin, because the more you start talking about where you are right now, and the more you get in front of a microphone, there's a good chance you're going to end up in the mentorship space where you're going to be speaking to a lot of people.
I actually miss that. I used to do it a lot.
Yeah,
I used to do that's when I've done it. I was in front of 5,000 people for the city of Toronto talking about entrepreneurship, and it's a rush. I get nervous though every time I do it. And
you're good at it though. You shouldn't be.
So here's my trick. It's not the picture everyone naked thing. Show up early.
Yep.
And I walk the room.
Yep.
And I'll just go and start talking to people.
Get acclimated with the space.
There's a picture of me, so they already know like I'm going to hear this guy talk.
Right.
The first time I did it for Shift Hub back in like 2012, I think it was, and I'm pitching to this room. Like it was demo day, the big day, the huge day. And there's like five companies and you're like ready to go. I've got my suit in the bag and I'm like walking to the thing and I am like dry heaving on the way. I'm like, this is where I came up with it. And I just said, I got dressed up and I go, I'm going to go upstairs early and just walk around this room.
That's good.
And it fucking worked.
That's good.
What I try to do is I talk to 5 people in the audience.
Touch points.
And then I watch where they sit. So when I'm on stage, I now just look at those 5 people and it feels like I'm talking to just the 5.
I love that. And you're getting integrated with the atmosphere of the room at the same time too.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse.
It breaks the ice. I just ignore everyone else
and
I just talk to the 5 people I met.
To me, it's the same thing as going very early to a party so that you're not walking into a party. The party's walking into you already being there. It's easier.
Yeah. So it's fun. Good. So And as I was saying to you earlier on, like since 2020, when we're all locked up, I just got into this very comfortable rut of kind of just staying home. Like the party would come to me. And I've been doing a lot more of this, getting out of the city, going and talking to people, talking to clients. And I think 2025, I can do a lot more of this and a lot more eating out too. Like just going out and trying new foods, because it's been a while since I've been really sort of making the restaurant sort of circuit. A little more travel, but I need to get out a little more. I've been locked up.
We were talking about this before we started recording, but over lunch, I had said very similar thing. I feel very compelled that 2025 needs to be collaborative. The first 3 years of the entity of my food project called Salt Supper Club I've gone it alone with the help of my wife, but I want to do it with other people. Yeah. And I know that you and I are very early days on talking about a collaboration, but
yeah, I'm in.
For me, that's kind of where I want to spend the next year or two, is just not knocking heads with some cool people and just making. We're in the business of making moments for people. Food is a huge part of it, but like the wholesale big picture thing that what we do with Salt is, I want you to be talking about this 5 years from now. Remember that meal.
So man, that's such a great thing. Like that's what I try to treat every weekend at my house. Like, and people still talk about.
I'm jealous of your house because
you gotta come.
I love that. Like,
I'm sure you've seen in the summer when I put the big giant movie screen up in the backyard. We bring people over, and people like still talk about nights from a couple of years ago. Like we were just over the top fun. Like I'm taking everyone out at 4 a.m. Let's get out of here. Like it's a lot of fun there. It is a lot of fun.
I just launched a thing called Come Eat at My House. It's 8 seats. $90 a head, because instead of doing it, transferring everything here, I'm like, I wonder if people would come to my house and they want to come, but I'm monetizing something that you're already doing for free in your home.
Yeah, I can't. It's too late for me.
But I mean, I do 5,000% more things in my home naturally and organically, but I'm like, I'm going to try this. That's a complete sidebar. But yeah, having life come to you and you sustaining the life in your home it's a grandma Nona thing. They're coming to you.
Yeah.
You're the fireplace.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I love that. That's a special place to be. Like I love that when my kids, when I'm gone, they're going to go, Dad was always in the kitchen. It always smelled like food.
Man, like a lot of the reason I'm doing this too, it's like this, I'm building like this
core memories,
this data war chest of me. Yeah. For one day I'll be gone. Yeah. And it's like, okay, kids. Yeah. Here's everything I've ever cooked.
I love that. I love that. I always joke. My daughter Layla, I torment her. I basically watch cooking shows and World War II stuff. Like I have 2 modes. And she hates cooking shows. But I said, honey, one day you're just going to put it on in the background because it'll remind you of Daddy. Yeah. I know that. I know enough life to know that the things I thought I hated, I miss.
And the tie into music too. Yeah. It's like,
yeah. So yeah, that dude, where have you been the last 12 years of my life? I love it. So
literally the same spot.
It's true. I've been home the whole time.
The problem is that I have been in the exact same spot on Palmerston Boulevard.
So let's talk about, do you know Rick Beato? The guy on YouTube, he's a huge music guy now. He's a producer and now he's interviewing everybody.
Think I know that. Yeah.
He's a salt and pepper guy. I'll send you some links. Anyway, he posted a thing about how he got into the YouTube space at 54. And over the course of 4 years, he's now interviewing whoever he wants.
Wow.
And I never realized how insecure and how much age has decided to play a role in my psyche. I feel like I've aged well, but suddenly crossing over 45, something happened to me. I'm like, how is this possible? How am I 45? And it's the age old, am I still relevant? Do I still have something to say? Like, it's just all bullshit, but it's jacking my brain up, man. And because I'm waiting for what's really next, to have a lot of pokers in the fire, I'm feeling a little bit like I'm stranded. And I want to hear from you on that, because I think that
I want to tell a story.
Please.
Okay. This one needs some elbow room.
Okay.
So I said I got the privilege of having 3 parents. I had my mother, my stepfather, my dad. My real father passed away, unfortunately, about 15 years ago.
Sorry.
And But my stepfather, who's always been also my dad, and my real dad was even really cool about it. He's like, yeah, I know, like he's super cool with Tom. Tom, my stepfather, he's a great guy. Like there was no jealousy or anything weird. He wouldn't say anything. It was, I'm just so fortunate I got to grow up in this environment. Unfortunately, my dad did pass away. So I'm going to tell this story and I'm going to use the word my father probably a few times, but I mean my stepfather. I was born in 1970. My parents split in 75. My mother remarried in 1980. I remember being at that wedding. It was in a courthouse. I think it was in Kitchener. My mom married Tom. I'm 10. Tom was 40. Now, I don't have a lot of memories prior to being 10 years old. Probably you don't either.
I do.
Probably have a handful.
I'm a weirdo.
But it's not all of them. It's a very small part of your memory.
Sure.
Prior to being 10. You can remember a couple weekends at a cottage or a summer camp thing or an event that happened at school. And they're fuzzy. The edges of those memories are fuzzy. It's not a crystal. This isn't a 4K video. This is sepia toned and the edges are burnt.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from that moment at 10 years old, Tom's 40. I'm now 54. Most of my memories in my life were from that moment on, from 10 on. We moved from there. We moved all into a house together, a big one. I went through high school, family vacations, growing up, meeting my kid's mother, starting my first real big company in Toronto, getting divorced. All of that happened. Since that moment, I watched my mother marry my stepfather when I was 10 and he was 40. Which means Tom at 40 experienced that same timeline. So prior to that, he had 40 years of his life where he did incredible things. He's a sailor, a skier, met my mom, dated a bunch of other people. He bought tons of houses in real estate. You're 5 years past a moment where a 10-year-old was staring up at you, about to be your stepkid. You have an entire lifetime ahead of you. I look at Tom at 40, which for him probably feels like yesterday. And he had an entire life prior to that moment. But that 10-year-old kid standing beside him is now 54 and has all of those memories packed on top of the life that he showed up to the table with that day. Dude, you are 5 years into that timeline of an entire life where a 54-year-old is sitting there fondly thinking back on you. And my stepfather at 84 still manages a 50-acre property, plows our driveway, which is a kilometer long with his tractors. You know, he's got a couple pains and he can't see as well as he used to. You have a huge life ahead of you. You have a huge life ahead of you. And I hate when I hear people say, oh, life's short, man. No, fucking it is not. Life is long. It's really long. Pack as much. Are you tired? Too bad. Get up. Go and pack one more thing into today.
It's good.
Tomorrow, 100%. This week, pack as much as you can in.
Yep.
I'm telling you, life is long. It's like, are you packing enough in every month? Why do you think I get up? Yeah, this hurt. Last year it hurt. It hurt a lot. I burned out. I flamed out. I had nothing. Stand back up many nights crying. How am I going to, what's going to happen? Nope. I got so much more gas in the tank. I'm only 14 years past that moment when that kid was standing there looking like I'm looking down at that 10-year-old kid. If I'm Tom, I'm only 14 years into it. I'm only 14 years into it. I have so much more gas in the tank.
I'm there. I'm with you. I agree. And that is generally where I live. I do a lot because I believe in that. But there is an echo that rattles around in my head. I think a lot of it is I feel like I should be further along in life than what I've done. And I have a very short memory about the wins I have. I'm always looking ahead, maybe to a detriment.
Oh, I do the same thing.
So I think the season for me is like, I've done more than most. Maybe not in our space. Like you're surrounded by superstars, but I mean, like I do a lot of the things that people say. Yeah, I thought about doing that. A lot of the times I've done them, and I have a lot of wins. But I think I'm looking too far too much of the time that I can't enjoy where I've been.
Yeah, you gotta. Okay, that's something I'm, actively training myself on.
Yeah.
Is like stop.
Yeah.
Worrying about last month.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ, stop worrying about next month. Really, really focus just on today and this week.
That's good, man. This has been great conversation, man. I'm very grateful for your time. When was the first moment with this new direction with food? I know you've had people speak into you and remind you of perhaps you should be looking at this, but despite all the outside influence, for sure there was a moment where you went to yourself, oh my God, this is a thing. Do you remember?
Like this is it? Yeah. So that was pretty recently. It was. I'll admit that I've had several moments like that. So the first few months, that was my training, startup training, which was like, as soon as I made the decision, I put my brain there. This is it. This is the new thing. And it felt forced. I wasn't doing anything forced. It just felt forced.
Right.
Like I wouldn't do anything without bouncing it off Catherine, my girlfriend, because she would keep me in line. Because I would have just shotgun spraying ideas all over the place. I kept it pretty focused. But it felt like I was treating it like a startup. It felt forced. Like, this is my new thing. This is what I'm pitching. This is my, like, okay, wait. Then it was a summer where I felt like I was really hitting a stride. I'd taken over all my own video editing. I got the pace up. I had transferred my old YouTube channel to the current version of it. It used to be a cannabis channel, so I torched all the content and I flipped it into this thing, and I got a lot more focused. And then a lot of this was through feedback from people I respect, like other chefs. I'm like, okay, so this is all right. I started doing some collaborations with brands, and they loved it. I'm like, okay, wait a second. People are actually liking this. This isn't a startup pitch where I'm just selling sizzle and it's a pitch deck and it's like, we're going to disrupt the blah, 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 whatever. This was just, okay, this is what I do every day. I cook every day. And I just started, and like I just said, are you too tired to film tonight, Jeremy? Oh, poor baby, get this fucking camera out and film you making a late night pasta. And I would post it and I'm like, oh, I love it when you do these late night things. And I love the late night series when you do voiceovers and okay, this is starting to work. And so it was in the fall when it really started to feel like, okay, this is it.
Yeah, that's when
this
I noticed
the
fever pitch starting to happen.
Yeah, I'm like, this really is it. This is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And while I do always want things to work faster than they can, you can't plan for some sort of viral moment. I was pacing myself and I was being kind to myself, which was a new thing for me. I'm historically rarely kind to myself. I'm very hard on myself.
I want to talk about that when you're done with this story.
Yeah. And it was over Christmas, just a couple weeks ago, where I had batched all my content. Alan and I had done all these great projects for the butcher shop, and I was finished on schedule, so earlier than I wanted. I got to relax, and I'm just basically just lying around watching Christmas movies, eating, just getting fat. And I was I'm like, this is it, man. You have found the next thing. This is it. I still don't know where it will end up. A year from now, I think, like, I will most likely manufacture a product of some sort. I am beta testing spices and meal kits. It might transit. I still want to build a cast iron line of cookware. I'm being very, very slow with that and just doing what I'm currently doing. I'm not looking to add on new things, but it will most likely evolve into some form of a product company. I think like a year from now, we might do part 2 to this. And I'm like, hey, guess what? I was completely wrong. I didn't do that at all. But it was, so there's been these sort of level ups of this feeling like the right thing. And it was when I was finally gave myself some time off over Christmas. I was just sitting there in the quietness of the house. And I'm like, this is it. This is it. I found it.
Good for you, man. That's how I felt when I discovered food. This is it.
Yeah.
That's such an, and I often wonder how many people will never know that feeling. Everybody has a superpower and some people don't find it.
Yeah. So this is where mentoring isn't about writing a check or standing there and like, I'm just going to school this person to give them all my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's giving people access. That's what mentoring really is. You want to give them access to things that you've learned.
Okay.
Networks you've built.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, the privilege you just fell into, as I said, I've got a lot of privilege just from how I grew up with the family I grew up. I did, my first few businesses, like the apparel business in the early days. Oh my God. I'm like, it's this easy to make money. Holy fucking, are you kidding me? This is fantastic. And I had like from my windsurfing school to the water purifier business to coaching skiing and all this, like it was just, everything was easier and easier. And then I opened up my own apparel agency and just killed it. And then I hit adversity for the first time in my 30s, real adversity. And it started getting very, like I went on a probably 15-year, mostly unlucky streak.
Wow.
Yeah. And
wow.
This is right now, Christmas, I'm like, I'm finally breaking out of a 15-year bad luck streak. Like I've had within that bad luck streak, though, I've had some wins, not as big as prior to that. So
that's so great to hear though.
Yeah.
Because we need to hear that story, that factoid as well.
Oh, I went in there, I went bankrupt and insolvent.
Wow.
Like during the divorce with my kid's mom, ended up in a personal bankruptcy. As soon as I got out of it, the financial crisis hit, and I had two big retail stores down in Cambridge and Kitchener, and that hit us. We survived for another year, and then that company went insolvent. I had to sell off all the assets, and that's how I got into tech. Was I just had flamed out in apparel, and I just had my real dad had just died. It was right after the financial crisis. He died. The company went into a tailspin. I hung on for a year, and I'm like, I'm out. I got to get out of this and I got to start something new. And that's when I threw myself into tech. Mentorship for me has been giving people access to privilege. Because no matter what happens, it's when you're born, you end up a 6'5", decent looking white guy. I can go, start a tech company, flame out, lose $1 million. And guess what? 6-12 months later, they're willing to give me another $1 million to try again on something else.
That blows my mind.
Right? I've probably raised over $10 million. I've helped other companies raise over 100. And there's nothing in me that wants to do it again. But if I assemble a new team, probably a year from now, I could go out and raise more money.
We have a little tiny espresso bar in Burlington, and it's getting its ass kicked. And we only need like $5,000 to get things back to level. And the struggle it has been to figure this out has been tumultuous, to say the least. And more than the lesser beings that we are could walk in and go, all you need to do is X, Y, and Z. The fact that there's access to so much money and that people know how to do that and other people have no clue how to get out of a pit is wild to me.
Sometimes it's easier to raise $1 million than it is to raise 10,000.
I get that.
Right? Like because when I'm pitching those guys, it's like, okay, you're going to give me $1 million and I'm going to give you back 10.
Right.
It's a 10X. They go, look, we want you to run through that wall and smash it and come out on the other side with a 10X, or we want you to go to 0. If you come out and give us back 2.2 million, that's a failure.
Right.
You didn't try hard enough to get us 10. We'd rather you get a 0 than to give us a 2.2. They would. They don't want the 2.2. They'd rather you did everything humanly possible and burned yourself to the fucking bone trying to get the 10 than coming back with 2.2. That's private equity level. But with venture cap, investment banking, 10Xs or fuck off. So we're going to give you, you want $1 million? What do you, only want $1 million? What's wrong with you?
Right.
We're going to give you $5 million because we want 50 back.
I get it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're at 50. We're at exactly 1 hour. How you doing?
Keep going, man.
Sidebar, Toronto, where we met.
Yeah.
I was there 3 years. I didn't work. To me, that was the golden era of some of the culinary scene in Toronto, that era. I was honored to be in Toronto adjacent to the food scene in espresso, third wave espresso. Didn't work any shifts at any restaurant in Toronto in those 3 years, but I became a better chef by just eating and seeing.
That was a golden era.
It was a gold, the Black Hoof, like,
oh my God,
like Grand Electric, like, Electric Mud, all the, it was.
It's not the same now.
It's not. And thank you for confirming that. Cause I walked in, I'm like, what happened to my town? But yeah, man, that's when we met. Like, that was a really special time in Toronto.
Yeah. And it was like, we were all also, my whole crew, like, we're all old now. We just sit in my backyard. But back then we were running amok around the city and just being absolute fucking dirtbags.
It's amazing how much can change in 11 years, eh?
Yeah. Well, it happened over the pandemic. Like, that was it. We all tapped out. We're like, we're done.
Yeah.
This one went and got a kid and we're all hanging in my backyard. We're just like, you know what? We're not really missing anything, man.
Yeah.
We're not missing anything. Now, it's great to see the Toronto food scene still, like, we're spoiled.
Sure.
There's so many great restaurants.
I still miss
but it's not like, you know what? Maybe there's a younger crew out there that I don't even know exists that are running around doing the same thing that we used to do, that are looking for what's that next restaurant? I don't care that I don't know these people, because it's like, they're not going to want to hang out with me, and we're not that crew anymore. It's nice to see that these restaurants still exist.
Yeah.
But it's not like that was a golden era, man.
It was.
By the way, and I think it's because chefs were the rock stars back then.
Yes. And there was the food scene felt like a music scene. It was like, what band is playing? What restaurant just opened? Like, there was, and also the drug use and alcohol abuse was just rampant back then too. So it was just an absolute melee. Like the restaurant, when the restaurant closed, that wasn't the end of, that's the beginning of the night. Like, it was just fucking mayhem after the thing closed. Yeah. So I don't think that's the same anymore. I don't think, young millennials and Gen Z are acting this way. They don't act the way we were, like, acting like absolute. Yeah. There's a rollover with generation now where I'm like, I can feel the generational shift, and they're not drinking like our generation did.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah. That's a thing. That was a complete departure of our line of conversation.
Yeah,
here.
we can steer it away from the degenerate.
I feel like you could have about 10 podcast episodes with your degeneracy.
No.
Just from what I've gleaned from you before we press record.
No, I've got too many stories. Yeah.
What are some of the glaring takeaways that you've learned in your life that beyond a shadow of a doubt, like, to be true? And I know there's a lot of blurred lines on what truth can be, and a lot of it's individual. But if you were to do it, five things to live by to your future grandchild.
Oof, wow, put me on the spot there. Things are never as bad as they seem, and no matter how good something is or how bad something is, it's not entirely, or maybe even at all, your fault. Like, one thing I've learned is that there's one thing that really irritates me is when I see super successful people think it's all them and their bootstraps and hustle culture and a vision board and getting up at 4:30 and going on a fucking hike with a bunch of other founders. I'm like, that's why access to privilege and networks is the most important thing. Like, luck has so much to do with all of this.
Yeah.
And I don't like seeing founders or successful people who won't even acknowledge it because they think it takes something away from them.
Right. You manufacture this success.
Like, if I'm looking at a guy, he's worth $100 million. He's got all the cars and the house, and I do that, and he's doing mentoring and he's been super successful. And you ask him, how much was this to do with luck? And they're just like, no, this is bootstraps. And and standing up straight and shaking hands. Like, okay, this is a lot of luck, man. Like
the right room with the right person.
You didn't get to choose where to be born or when to be born, or that you didn't have brain damage when you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Like luck, the idea that there's such a thing as a self-made man is such fucking utter horseshit. There's no such thing.
This is why you're on this interview right now, is because I know you've had to reinvent yourself multiple times. I've watched it, and I respect that more than the six-pack, obnoxious, young tech billionaire. I want the blood and guts and the scars.
So even that is privilege. So let me explain something. So February 24, when everything flamed out, I had where's my next dollar coming from?
Right.
I know I'm skilled. I know I could just pick up the phone and start calling around and probably wrangle up a job making $250K a year pretty quick. What I did was I wanted to do this, but this doesn't pay you any money at the start. So my buddy had a cannabis shop, and I said, do you have a delivery driver? Because when I was running Totex, which was part of Weedbox, we were doing this delivery thing. And I won't get into it, but I'm like, I know he delivers. I just didn't know if he had a delivery driver. He goes, yeah. He goes, I actually need one. And I go, can I be your delivery driver? He's like, Jeremy, I'm going to pay you minimum wage plus tips. That's it. I go, plus kilometers. I go, I'll take it. I just need to have some money coming in here, and I need to keep the wheels moving because I need my brain moving.
Right.
So if you looked at that from the outside, you're like, oh, poor Jeremy, like Mr. Big Startup guy. Now he's delivering weed like an Uber Eats driver. Okay. So let me explain something. That, if you want to point a finger at white privilege, that is one of the best examples of white privilege I've ever been a part of. And here's why. That wasn't a poor Jeremy has to do cannabis deliveries. I chose to do that so I could pay some bills while giving myself the optionality to build something new. If me taking another job would have been such a load of shit, because I'd be lying to the person who gave me the job that I was going to stick around, because there's no fucking chance I was going to. I would start something in my head. Eventually, I'd be basically robbing them, because half of my day would be spent thinking about what my next thing is. So I don't think people understand what luck and privilege really are, and they think it takes something away from them. And like, it's really great that I was like, it did require a bit of humility, because I know what it looked like on the surface, that I'm out delivering weed. But what people didn't see was that I arranged that I didn't have to deliver on Tuesdays. So I'd film all my content on Tuesdays. I'd have my laptop in the car with me. I'd be running around for literally, I'm telling you, 10 to 12 hours a day, every day. I did not have a single day off from early March until the end of the summer. Not a single day off, except for my birthday. I would deliver weed for 12 hours a day, typically.
Wow.
I would do it in batches. Of course, I put together an app that would just route me through the city most efficiently.
You just put yourself together an app? What the hell?
No, there was an app out there, but I said, okay, I'm going to do this and this. This is how I'm going to use it, so I can have these breaks for an hour and a half where I would pull over into a parking lot. I would write recipes for my Substack. I would edit videos in the car. My dog is beside me, so I'm loving life. And it's in the summer. I've got the air conditioning on. That's fucking privilege. That I had the like, there's all these other drivers out there that I'd be standing in a condo waiting to go up the elevator. I've got an Uber Eats driver. This guy's got burgers. This guy's got pizza. And I'm sitting there with a bag of weed. Those guys didn't have a choice. They're the new Canadians.
Gotcha.
Or they're trying to just build something. I had a choice to go and get probably a very nice 6-figure job, but I chose to do that because it gave me the optionality to pull over into a parking lot and edit videos and upload them to a YouTube channel and write my Substack and strategize on things and try to find clients to work with. That's privilege. And I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs are honest enough, because when they get to that high level of success, they hide these stories.
Right.
Or if they didn't have this story and they were just straight up lucky, they won't acknowledge the luck because they think it takes something away from them and their story.
But that's where the gold is, though, is the struggle. As Miley Cyrus says, the climb.
Yeah, that's it. And like, I think it's just so important. And it's part of proper mentorship where you tell someone, like, because if you just sit there and you're the successful person, you're driving this, $400,000 car,
Yeah.
blah, 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 all this stuff. And you're like, and all you do is stare at someone and say bootstraps or hustle culture or 430 or vision board. Dude, you need to acknowledge that you were lucky. You were born in a year in a school or like didn't have brain damage. Your parents helped you with this. This is part of it. Your job is to give that luck and opportunity to people who need it. Do not be the entrepreneur who gets to the top of the ladder and yanks the fucking ladder up.
Right.
Get to the top of the ladder and put your arm down and yank someone else up.
Dude, that's so good. That's revolutionary. It's two things. Hyper success does not feel accessible. It feels inaccessible.
Yeah.
Genuine acknowledgement of where you've been and the luck you've had is highly accessible. Number two, the mentorship you're talking about requires selflessness, the courage to give out what you have. Maybe not the courage. Being okay to give out what maybe you fought for.
Yeah. That's it.
That's leadership.
Why gatekeep that?
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's your job. If you made it, fuck, bring everyone with you.
I love that. Okay. So it's clear that you have a mentorship streak in you for sure. Like I
love it.
Yeah. I'm inspired by what you're saying. I love to teach as well. And I'm fortunate that I've always been a perpetual older brother. You probably have been like that too. I'm just kind of like always had like, it's a good place to be. But what kind of a father are you? In the sense that I don't even know what I mean by that. I think
it's a great question.
Yeah, like let's talk about fatherhood because that's a type. That's not a type. That's the ultimate mentorship. I'm new to fatherhood. My son is 7, daughter's 5.5. And the older they get, the more nuanced it becomes. And I was taken by the fact that you had mentioned your daughter is staying with you at the house, and I'm like, that's what a rich thing to have your child with you.
I'm so thrilled that my kids are living with me.
I love that.
So I had kids young.
How old?
I was 26 and 27.
Okay.
So my kids are 25 and 26 now.
Okay.
And they both live with me. My daughter lives with her boyfriend on the 3rd floor, and my son lives we have a full basement apartment. That's his.
Awesome.
And their mom and I split 2 days before 9/11.
Wow.
Long time ago. So the kids were like 2 and 3 years old, I think.
That was a Sunday.
We split on a Saturday night. Yeah, Sunday morning.
I know that because I was recording a demo on the Monday before the Tuesday attack. I did the math. I rolled it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I bounced it, like, we had the blowout, bounce at 4 a.m. I went to my buddy Ian's house, opened up my flip phone, texted him using T9. Hey man, call me when you get up at 6 a.m. He called me and I'm like, I'm out front. And he's like, fuck, dude. I'm like, yeah. So I live with him. And that's when 9/11 happened. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was I answering?
Fatherhood.
Yeah. So my dad, my real father, was a problem. Like I loved him, man. He was problematic in a lot of ways and didn't end his life in the best part of his story arc.
Okay.
Or his life ended not on the best part of his story arc. And so I was always determined to just not be like him. And I wanted to be a better father.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been very hands-on. And like anything, when I don't have the skill set, I just overcompensate with brute force.
Mm.
So time, I always put in a ton of time. When we were apart, we never got back together or even attempted to get back together. It was just, that's it, we're apart. And I was, it just started off with picking the kids up every day, taking them to school, Wednesday nights and every other weekend.
How old were they when that happened? What happened?
So they were 2 and 3. Oof. Yeah, it was tough. And it was my mom who was pointed out to me, she's like, Jeremy, you're going to be a better father when you're happy and you're not even miserable for a while now. Right. It was a problematic relationship. So fatherhood always came naturally to me. But I realized at Gen X, we were given the shittiest fucking toolbox. Like our parents.
Explain.
We were like this whole thing on TikTok and Instagram, like, oh, drinking from a garden hose and running around feral, just come home and like, that's fucking true.
Mm-hmm.
We were just get the fuck out of here.
Oh yeah.
And we weren't really given a whole, like, you get a toolbox of skills from learning whether you know you're being taught or not. But our parents weren't teaching us how to be parents. They were just like, get the fuck out of here and show up for dinner. And like, there wasn't a lot of, they were partying and they were having fun, like in the 80s and the 70s and the 80s. So when you come around the 90s, now I'm a dad, like there was no toolbox that I was referring to, right? I'm just on my own. So when my son and I hit a tough patch, and I knew when it was like, he was in grade 7 and, you know, he was a quiet kid and different than his sister. And this is proof, like, this is like, you don't really have that much effect on your kids as you think you do. You can lead them to a pasture. They're going to graze there. Yeah. They're born with this DNA.
Yep,
Sky and Quinn were like they're 13 months apart, inseparable, same opportunities. And they just turned out very different. Sky had a real easy time. Quinn had a tougher time. And that'll probably, like, as they, you know, go through life, that'll probably switch back and forth. And it's, you know, they're both doing great right now. But, you know, Sky and I always got along really, really well. Quinn and I, not so much. And he, like, I remember this one time, like he had just entered high school. We're in the house that I'm in now. He's on the stairs and I'm yelling, like I was a fucking asshole. I'm yelling so loud. This is what I picked up from my dad, was to yell super loud and just brute force your way through this shit. And I've had a couple of incidences in the last 2 years where that fucking demon came back out of me, or I'm just screaming so fucking loud because I lose control of a situation. And that's been imprinted on my DNA. Largely better though. Also my son's 6'3", shredded. And he could probably throw me off the planet. Like he's so strong. But for 10 years, I did not know what the fuck to do. I couldn't help him. I didn't know how to help him. I remember this day on the stairs and the first week of grade 9, he didn't go to school once on time his entire high school career. He struggled all the way through. He's really smart. He just wasn't getting any pure satisfaction from doing well at school. He was just figuring out how to be him. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to guide him through it. But what I did, and this is a reoccurring theme on this, was I picked my strategy and I said, okay, I can't give up on him no matter how much like he frustrates me or he hates me, he doesn't want to talk to me and doesn't like whatever. I just have to stick with this plan because I know in my gut, I know he's going to figure it out. I know. And I don't care if I get a pat on the back. I really don't. And if I don't ever get the friendship with him like I have with my daughter, that's okay too. I just want him to be happy. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, and I had a lot of people like, well, you just got to kick him out in this, tough love and get him out of the house and get him to get his own place and just cut him off. And I'm like, that's not the move.
Bring that mic closer to your mouth.
Yeah, that's not the move. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. And I thank God I didn't do it.
So what was the strategy?
Honestly, was stick with the plan. It was me saying, you can live here. I'm going to be as supportive as I can. I'm here if you need me. I'm going to try to interject and tell you when I think you're doing something wrong. But I had to let go of expecting anything back. Expecting him to say thank you. Expecting him to not just tell me I'm a fucking loser anyhow or something. I just said, okay, no. This has to be one way. I have to just keep doing my job.
Your job was to not disappear.
To be there, like, even though he's telling me I don't need you and go fuck yourself, not in exactly those words, but just still keep being there for him. And just keep, like, look, here's another thing too. All these stories I've been talking about for the last hour, that's great for just me. I took my kids along for that ride, whether they wanted to or not.
Mm-hmm.
That is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
They had to watch me. And here's the thing, they're too young to remember when, in the 90s, I'm making 40 grand a month selling monkey t-shirts, right? Like when I had so much money, I didn't know what to do with it all. They saw a lot of that, the last 15 years of up and down,
Right.
pretty much bad luck.
Right.
And that's stressful for them. It's stressful when you're a young kid and you're in school and you're comparing yourself to others. So I also gave them a lot of leeway. Like, yeah, you can hate me. I get it. I brought you along in this entrepreneurial journey and you did not sign up for this. Your friends, their parents have regular jobs. It's steady. There's no up and down. There's not this type of stress. There might be another type of stress for sure, but I don't know it and I don't provide that. I provide this type of stress, which is fucking entrepreneurship.
My brand, yeah.
Yeah. So I know Quinn, it was very stressful for Quinn. It's been stressful for Sky and she internalized it. Quinn really internalized it. It's hard to get it out of them, but I'll skip to the end. My daughter's a teacher at a small private school. They love her. She loves her career. She's growing. She's got a great relationship with her boyfriend. He's a fantastic guy. And my son, right on schedule. Like, we went to therapy together and he had a therapist and we were talking. My therapist was like, listen, man, like, I think you're going to be on this path with Quinn until he's probably around 25. And this is when he was in grade 7. I'm like, no fucking way. And
wow,
right on track. He nailed it. And he's like, Quinn's not going to change until he realizes that his behavior is getting in the way of the things that he wants. And he's doing fantastic now. He works for a great company. He's a crew chief in a moving company. He's got a very diversified portfolio. He saves money. He's a big, strong, healthy guy. He's got a great relationship with a girl. So I'm really happy. And I know as a part of it, I don't need an award for any of it. What I can tell him for the rest of his life is he did this and he did do all of this. My job is just to provide structure and a framework, walls that they can exist within, where they can tell me to go fuck myself, where they can feel supported and secure and safe. And I'm there when they need it. I can interject and tell them, here's what I think, the advice that I think you need right now. The most important thing is try to build these walls where they get to live freely within. They're secure within, and you get to let them thrive on their own and build their own life. And I think I did it. Like, no one, I've never met anyone who's like from a father till whatever stage I'm at now, who's been amazing at it. Like, we're all just like the day you go home with that kid and you're in the car and you have this little nugget in the seat in the back and the nurse is like, yeah, get the hell out of here. And you're like, really? Like, I get to just go home with this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need a license or nothing. Like, he's like, no, get out of here. I'm like, I'm not sure I'm qualified to even just drive away from this hospital, but you do it and you figure it out. And I'm like, if you want to talk about all the different ways that I'm hard on myself, nothing beats this. Nothing beats how hard I am on me as a dad. Like, I have beat myself up about so many things. And again, at the end, you pick your path. Try not to measure anything too early. I look back now, they're 25 and 26, and I'm like, fuck, it did work out the way I thought it was going to work out. They're happy. They're both happy. They're both thriving. And it took a long time. It took they got to watch. And here's the thing too. I think in the end, while it's stressful, watching me go through some of the shit I've been through the last 15 years is going to teach them how to handle adversity when it eventually hits them. Because they're going to, hopefully never to the degree that I've experienced it. But I hope, and here's the thing too, I always told them what was going on. There was never, I remember when I pitched for Shift Hub, I'm getting out of apparel. Everything went south.
When I met you, had you just gotten out of apparel?
Just got out of apparel.
Wow.
Just getting into tech. And I've been sitting in this camp called Muskoka Woods every summer for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks a summer each. That is an expensive camp. But The company flamed out. I didn't have that kind of money anymore. And I'm getting into tech. I'm starting from the bottom. I'm like, guys, things are just going to be different. The camp's done. Like, I can't send you to this insane camp where kids are fucking ziplining and friends are showing up in their helicopters. And like, it's the most insane camp in the world. Like, you can't go there anymore. They get it. They always like, okay. Like, it sucked. And there's disappointment along the lines, but lean Christmases, all that type of shit. Like, they've experienced a lot. They all still live with me, which is great. So they still probably like me.
That's huge.
Okay. So I don't understand people like, oh, my kids are going to be out of there at 18. Fuck, what the hell? Are you crazy?
Yeah, I don't want that.
This is the best time.
Yeah.
They're the most high functioning now.
Yeah.
They can contribute.
I tell my kids, like, I'm going to live with you when I'm old, so you know.
Yeah. Like, why do you want, I don't like, you only want to keep them during teenagers suck. Like, you want to kick them out at the end of that. You're missing the best part, man. Like, this is great. Like, I'm lucky that I've got this great house on Palmerston. It's 3 stories, 5 bedrooms. There's a lot of room for us. Everyone's got elbow room. Could use another bathroom, but that's another story. But it's just it's so great to have everyone around and loop this back to cooking. I get to, whether I want to or not, I'm cooking every night. I got a lot of content that I get to film because there's 5 people in my house that constantly need an enormous amount of, like, a wild amount of food. Oh my God, these kids can eat a lot.
Oh, especially if you have a kid that's tall and full of muscle and has a physical job.
Yeah, he works for this company called Fireman Movers, and like, they're all firemen. They're just like a fucking tank, like these meat trucks walking around. Like, Quinn is just like, I'm like, Jesus, calm down, man. You're making me look bad.
Wow. Would you change anything?
No, goddamn. I would never, like, it was like, people ask me that, like, if you go back in time, I wouldn't step on a different leaf.
Oh, I love that.
Here's the thing. Everything I experience is added up to who I am right now. And I wouldn't want to step on a different leaf and not have one of my kids or something. I'd go through every single painful moment all over again to have what I have right now. Every single moment. There's nothing I would skip. Because what I got right now is amazing. I wouldn't want anything different.
You sound, I don't know what your bank account looks like, but you're a wealthy man. I can tell. I can just see it in your photos, man. You know what? When we hopped on a call last week, when we were trying to suss out a plan to get together, just seeing you get interrupted talking to your full grown daughter and talking about, are you hungry? There's salmon in there. Go ahead and feed yourself. But I'm gonna make some pasta later on. So the fact that you had the opportunity to just have that moment with a child at that age and have that relationship interrupt your day is the best thing. I was like, that's so great. I was just so happy for you to see that was there. Like, that's great.
It's fantastic. And like, I know I'm going to go home after this. And everyone's already sent me a text saying, don't worry, we're already doing a podcast. Like, don't worry about cooking it. I'm going to walk in that back door.
Yep.
The apron is sitting on the stool where I left it. That's going over my head. I'm going to make them a really quick dinner.
Same. That's we were cut from the same cloth. That's a good segue. We're at 1.5 hours. I'm learning when to pull back on a conversation. This conversation went exactly the way I had hoped it would. I'm so grateful that we got to reconnect after these decade.
I think we're going to do some fun things this year.
I am very excited about knocking heads together and doing some stuff. I think there's something there. I know there's something there. And I'm a fatalist. I do believe that when I meet someone and I connect, even if it's really quickly for a small snippet, I'm never surprised when it comes back around again. But I can honestly say this. I'm inspired. I'm encouraged. And I'm grateful that I got to hear your story, man, because, a lot of it echoes kind of where I'm at right now. And it's nice to have someone to look to who's doing cool things, who's gone ahead of you on certain things. And I'm grateful for that. So for the heartfelt thank you for your time and your travel time to get here and be available to it. Yeah.
It's been great.
Thank you so much for your time, man. And the next project is going to be feeding people. We just need to decide when and where and how.
We're going to feed some people. It's going to be fun.
And I think eventually I'd like to get in front of a camera with you and bang some episodes out too. Do some food.
Yeah, we're going to do a series, like a fire series in the backyard. Cool. I was lucky with the house when I moved in. There was this some old Italian man had built this outdoor fireplace thing.
Wicked.
Which I threw a bunch of old cinder blocks into, and I found these old cast iron grates at a Home Depot. So it's a barbecue now.
Wicked.
So Alan and I are doing this whole outdoor cooking series through the winter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's like sitting around outside, throwing on some thin pork chops with some shucked oysters on the side and drinking whiskey and just hanging out. Like, so we got to get you to some of those nights.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Absolutely. First of all, like, no one in my house wants to sit outside in the cold with me.
I'll do it. I'll do it with you.
I need people.
I'll do it with you.
I need Canadian dudes who want to come outside.
Well, let me officially say for all time on the microphone, and it'll be in the ether forever. Please lean on me for any food stuff or help you ever need, man. I want to get my hands dirty with you and do some work.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Okay. Jeremy Potvin, thank you so much for your time, man. Jeremy, for people who want to, well, this is a huge one. How do people find your content and subscribe to everything you're doing? What's your stuff?
You can find me on Substack at jeremypotvin.substack.com, Instagram at Jeremy Potvin, on YouTube at Jeremy Potvin Cooking.
There you have it, folks. Everyone listening, thank you. We'll see you on episode 90. We're 10 out from 100. I cannot believe it. I have to figure out what this 100th episode is going to be. But thank you so much, guys. Everyone listening around the world, literally, check out this guy's information. It will make you hungry, I promise. Jeremy, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you on the flip side, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Take care.